Mhm.
Alright. Wait, what?
Do you want me to read the whole thing?
No, 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 no. Let's take turns. Like I said.
Like, do
Okay.
your best chills voice. All right.
Number 15. Does anyone remember an old PC game from the early 1990s called Mr. Mix? It was mainly a typing game, similar to Mario Teaches Typing, where you have to put words into a box to make a chef, the titular Mr. Mix, place ingredients into a bowl.
Unlike most typing games, however, the game was notorious for having an insane difficulty curve. It had a words per minute required for each level, being as low as 10 on a level on one and as high as 85 on the third. By level 5, the requirement reaches over 500, effectively making it impossible to proceed any further.
One of the main things that had people immediately notice. Oh, fuck. One of the main things that people immediately noticed about the game was the background music. On the first level, it was an unsteady pattern of growls that got progressively louder as the level went on, often causing damage to early computer speakers that were not designed to handle extremely high volumes.
The second level had no music at all, and the third had what sounded like the very low quality of a hair dryer playing in the background. The remaining two levels had an incredibly loud, high-pitched ringing throughout that caused severe eardrum damage to those who managed to get that far.
Another rather disturbing aspect of Another rather disturbing aspect of the game was the design of Mr. Mix himself. He was a large, round faced, overweight man with beadly eyes and red spots on his cheeks.
Most children who played the game reported having vivid nightmares of Mr. Mix speaking to them in a quiet, raspy voice and threatening them to keep quiet about something. However, none of them could remember exactly what that was.
One psychologist who saw many of these children reported being disturbed by the sheer amount of terror on their faces as they recounted details of the nightmare. Many of them broke down into tears in the process, begging for their parents to save them. However, no direct relationship to the game itself could be determined by these few cases, as not all children suffered the same adverse effects.
For obvious reasons, the game did not sell very well. It remained in relative obscurity until a few years ago when PC hackers got hold of a ROM of it and start digging through it.
Using memory hacking software, they managed to crack the game's code and bypass the impossible fifth level. What they found, however, was highly disturbing and caused many of them to quit the expedition altogether.
According to reports these hackers left behind, the game behaves very strangely if the fifth level is bypassed. The game crashes violently and closes, writing a bunch of files to the user's System32 directory to the point that the RAM is almost completely filled.
These files are reportedly pictures of people with horribly deformed faces, appearing to scream in pain and agony, their eyes bleeding from their tear ducts,
Tears.
and their outer layer of skin torn clean off in multiple places.
If the user attempts to delete these files, their computer will violently crash and blue screen, causing permanent and several damage to the hard drive.
Irreparable, irreparable.
Cool. Yeah.
The hackers found that this was caused by a ion byte in the game's ROM that triggered the fifth level. The trigger when the fifth level was completed. After removing this byte, they were able to proceed to the sixth and final level.
Unfortunately, all of the original hackers declined to discuss what they saw in the final level. Each of them became extremely paranoid and reclusive afterwards, refused to talk about anything related to the game, and showing astonishingly extreme symptoms of post traumatic stress disorder.
Most of them ceased to be able to form coherent sentences within a week. Within a month, all of them had gone missing.
All remaining copies of the game were destroyed. To this day, no one knows what was in it and that caused the group so much psychological damage. Maybe it's better that way.
2 years after this incident, a man was arrested for trying to kidnap an 8-year old girl from a grocery store. Through DNA and fingerprint analysis, he was identified as one of the original hackers who had viewed the final level of the game.
He was wearing a white chef's hat and had a look of unspeakable malice and insanity on his face. When interrogated, the man would say one thing. I'm Mr. Mix. Wow.
That wasn't
I
that
was
bad.
I'm making this. Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty alright.
It was decent. Um, what do you rate it on a scale from 1 to 10? On
Uh,
a scale from 0 to 10 on the creepypasta meter.
I think it's like uh pretty alright. It's kind of similar to other video game creepypastas, like causing psychological
Yeah,
damage.
I think it's for me. It's either a 4.5 or a 5. It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
It's not like groundbreaking or anything, but it's good. What the hell? Mr. Mix is in my DMs.
Oh my god, he actually hacked your computer.
He's currently posting gore in my hard drive.
Oh,
Someone
what a tragic.
help. Chills too. I need help.
Oh yeah, right. All right, dead Bart it is.
Reading serious creepypastas in a stupid video like this is are we seriously gonna read something like Abandoned by Disney in the goddamn Chills voice? That Bart. You know how Fox has a weird way of counting Simpsons episodes?
They refused to count a couple of them, making the amount of episodes inconsistent.
The reason for this is a lost episode from season 1.
Finding details about this missing episode is difficult. No one knows who was working on the show at the time, likes to talk about it. From what has been pieced together, the episode's production number was 7G06 and the title was Dead Bart. The episode. Wait, hold on. Where was I? Crap. The episode labeled 7G06 Moaning Lisa was made later and given Dead Bart's production code to hide the latter's existence. It also was written entirely by uh, what?
Matt Gore,
Not
the guy who made Futurama. Um, During production of the first season, Matt started to act strangely. He was very quiet and seemed nervous and morbid. Mentioning this to anyone who was present around Matt at the time resulted in them getting very angry and forbidding me to ever mention it to Matt himself. I first heard of it at an event where David Silverman was speaking. Someone in the crowd asked about the episode, and Silverman simply left the stage, ending the presentation hours early.
In addition to getting angry, asking anyone who is on the show about Dead Bart would cause them to do everything they could to stop you from directly communicating with Matt Groening at a fan event. I managed to follow him after he spoke to the crowd and eventually had a chance to talk to him alone as he was leaving the building.
So,
He
stalking
didn't seem
basically.
upset. Yep. He didn't seem upset that I followed him. He probably expected a typical counter with an obsessive fan. When I mentioned the lost episode, though, all color drained from his face and he started trembling. When I asked him if he could tell me any details, he sounded like he was on the verge of tears. He grabbed a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and handed it to me. He begged me never to mention the episode again.
The piece of paper had a website address on it. I would rather not say what it was for reasons you'll see in a second. I entered the address into my browser. I almost read that as Bowser and came to a site that was completely blank except for a line of yellow text, a link. I clicked on it and the file started downloading. Once the download was complete, my computer went crazy. It was the worst virus I have ever seen. The system restored and it worked. The entire computer had to be rebooted. Before doing this though, I copied the file onto a CD. I tried to open it on my now empty computer. As I suspected, there was a lost episode of The Simpsons on it. The episode started off. Oh, sorry, Chills too. This is your line.
The episode started off like any other, but had very poor quality animation. If you've seen the original animation for Some Enchanted Evening, it was similar but less stable. The first act was fairly normal, but the way the characters acted was a little off. Marge seems depressed. Lisa
You
behaved
skipped Homer.
anxiously.
You skipped Homer.
Oh, Homer was angrier. Marge seemed depressed. Lisa behaved anxiously. And Bart appeared to have genuine anger and hatred towards his parents.
The episode was about The Simpsons going on a plane trip. Near the end of the first act, the plane was taking off. Bart was fooling around, as you'd expect. However, the plane was about 50 feet off the ground. Bart broke a window and was sucked out.
At the beginning of the series, Matt had an idea that the animated style of the Simpsons world represented life and that death made things more realistic, hence why it was used in this episode. The picture of Bart's corpse was barely recognizable. They took full advantage of it not having to move and made an almost photorealistic drawing of his body.
Act 1 ended with a shot of Bart's corpse. When Act 2 started, Homer, Marge, and Lisa were sitting at a table crying. Where the hell is Maggie?
I don't know.
Dead?
She's also dead.
It was the prequel to Dead Bart, Dead Maggie. The crying went on and on. It became more pained and realistic. Better acting than you would think possible. The animation started to decay even more as they cried. You could hear murmuring in the background. The characters could barely be made out. They were stretching and blurring, looking like deformed shadows with random bright colors thrown at them. There were faces in the window, flashing in and out, so you were never sure what they looked like. This crying went on for all of Act 2.
Act 3 opened with a title card saying 1 year had passed. Homer, Marge, and Lisa were skeletally thin. And Maggie is freaking dead.
They decided to visit Bart's grave. Springfield was completely deserted, and as they walked into the cemetery, the houses became more and more decrepit. Decrepit. They all looked abandoned. When they got to the grave, Bart's body was lying in front of his tombstone, looking just like it did at the end of Act 1.
The family started crying again. Eventually, they stopped and just stared at Bart's body. The camera zoomed on Homer's face. According to summaries, Homer tells a joke at this part, but it isn't audible in the version I saw, so you can't tell what he's saying.
The view zoomed out as the episode came to a close. The tombstone in the background had the name of every Simpsons guest star on them. Some some that no one heard of in 1989. Some that haven't been on the show yet. All of them had death dates as well. For guests who died since, like Michael Jackson and George Harrison, the dates were when they would die. Credits were completely silent and seemed handwritten. The final image was a Simpsons family under the couch, just like in the intro, but all drawn in the hyper-realistic, lifeless style of Bart's corpse.
A thought occurred to me. Wait, oh wait, you already read that. A thought occurred to me after seeing the episode for the first time. You could try to use the tombstones to predict the death of living Simpsons guest stars, but there was something odd about most of the ones who haven't died yet. All of their deaths are listed as the same date.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a really cold. That's a really cold ending. I took I told you, like the ending's like it's the highlight. That's why it's kind of semi-popular. The ending is the highlight.
Not gonna lie, that was kind of fire. Ladies and gentlemen, this one might
All right,
shock
that
you,
should
but I
be.
give it about a 7.5. It's really
Dang,
good.
that's actually kind of high.
It's really good.
I made
It didn't shiver.
on I
Hold on. Okay. Maybe I'm being too generous
didn't
because the
quite shiver
ending
your.
was impactful. It leaves a lot of open
Yeah.
fat. Um, I don't know if I'm being too generous because of it, but it's pretty decent. It's pretty good. It didn't
Oh, the
shiver
ending's
my
actually like,
timbers.
you know,
What?
the ending is still good though.
It isn't. It didn't. It didn't shiver my timbers or anything, but it was pretty good. I fear. So that was Mr. Mix and that Bart read read to you by yours truly and my good friend, quite substantial. Uh,
Hello.
and so yeah, that was a horrible outro, dude.